Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're zeroing in on Part 7 of the Fire Safety Curriculum for Care and Education Settings. We are talking about the invisible shield, the built-in systems designed specifically to detect a fire, warn everyone inside, and physically protect vulnerable occupants. You probably walk past dozens of these intricate engineering solutions every single day without a second thought. But when an emergency actually strikes, this invisible shield becomes the most important thing in the world.
We've got 5 key areas to cover today: detection and early warning, illuminating the escape route, structural protection and compartments, sprinklers and suppression systems, and finally, routine testing and maintenance.
All right, Section 1, Detection and Early Warning.
Let's start with the building senses. Buying time is absolutely everything, especially when you're dealing with vulnerable folks who might need a little extra help evacuating. Now, alarm systems generally fall into 3 distinct categories based on their main job. Category M systems are purely manual, meaning they rely entirely on someone actually spotting a fire and breaking a glass call point. Then you have Category P, which is all about property protection, usually designed to save the building when nobody's around. But Category L, that is what we really care about in education and healthcare. Because care homes and residential schools have people sleeping on site or folks with mobility and cognitive needs, they typically require the highest coverage automatic systems for life safety. This ensures the alarm sounds at the absolute earliest hint of danger.
You see the physical hardware for these systems all the time. We're talking about smoke detectors in the corridors using optical or ionization sensors. Then you've got heat detectors, which are specifically used in dusty areas or kitchens where everyday steam would constantly cause false alarms. There are carbon monoxide detectors for fuel burning areas, and of course the classic red manual call points and green sounders or beacons. And hey, a visual beacon is incredibly important in a care setting. It provides a bright visual flash for anyone with a hearing impairment, making sure the warning is truly inclusive and absolute. Moving right along, Section 2, Illuminating the Escape Route.
So once that early warning sounds, the building has to actually guide you out. Just think about how disorienting your own house is in the pitch dark. Now imagine a massive school or a complex care home rapidly filling with smoke. Emergency lighting is literally your lifeline here. It's programmed to automatically kick on the exact second normal lighting fails, which happens all the time in a fire or a power cut. And it doesn't just light up random rooms. It's carefully placed to mark a continuous, protected path down the stairs, around tight corners, and through the exits straight to safety.
But here's a question for you. You walk past these signs and lights every day, but in the middle of a chaotic emergency, do you really know how to read your building's safety signals? Seeing a sign is one thing. Instantly understanding its command when your adrenaline is spiking is something else entirely.
It all comes down to a strict, color-coded language. A red circle? That means prohibition, like no smoking. A yellow triangle warns you of a hazard, like a fire risk. A solid blue circle is a mandatory instruction that you have to follow, like fire door, keep shut. A green square always points to a safe condition, marking your escape routes and final exits. And finally, the red square identifies firefighting equipment. Once you internalize this simple color code, you can literally read exactly what the building is telling you to do.
Okay, Section 3, Structural Protection and Compartments.
Now we're shifting from the systems that talk to you to the systems that physically defend you. Compartmentation is basically your ultimate time buyer. It's the practice of building fire-resistant walls and floors right into the architecture itself. You're essentially trapping the fire inside a box. This is absolutely critical in care settings, where staff might need to move patients sideways into a safe, adjacent compartment rather than immediately carrying them down multiple flights of stairs. You are relying on the building's sheer structure to buy you 30 to 60 extra minutes of breathable air.
Think of a fire door as a highly engineered piece of life-saving tech, not just a heavy chunk of wood. Every single part has a job. The self-closing device at the top makes sure the door always shuts behind you. Then you have the intumescent strips along the edges, which are brilliant. They're designed to physically swell up when exposed to extreme heat, expanding to completely fill the gaps between the door and the frame. Combine those with the smoke seals, and they lock the compartment tight. Even the gaps around the door have to be 3 millimeters or less. Every component, right down to the fire-rated vision panel, works together to hold back the danger.
Next up, Section 4, Sprinklers and Suppression Systems. Beyond passive structures just holding the line, we have active systems that jump into the ring to control or extinguish the flames while you escape. Now, we really need to bust a massive Hollywood myth here. If someone pulls a fire alarm, every single sprinkler in the entire building does not go off at once and soak everything. In reality, sprinklers react individually to heat, not the alarm system. Only the specific sprinkler heads closest to the intense heat of the fire will pop. This targeted response drastically reduces injuries, stops the fire from growing, and actually limits water damage to just the immediate area.
Because they're so effective, we're seeing these retrofitted or built into new schools and care homes a lot more lately. But they only work if we let them. You must never, ever paint over a sprinkler head, block it with tall furniture, or hang decorations from it. Also, keep an eye out for dedicated localized suppression systems for specific high-risk zones. For instance, commercial kitchens in care homes often have wet chemical suppression systems mounted right over the deep fat fryers, designed specifically to knock out a catastrophic cooking oil fire before it spreads.
And finally, Section 5, routine testing and maintenance.
Look, an invisible shield that is completely rusted away isn't going to protect anyone. This entire sequence only works if staff actively maintain the systems. There's a very specific rhythm to keeping a building safe. Every single week, you've got to test a different fire alarm call point to make sure the system rings loud and clear. Monthly, you're doing short functional tests on the emergency lighting and a quick visual check of the extinguishers. Quarterly, if you're in a multi-occupied building over 11 meters, those communal fire doors need checking. And annually, you run a full-duration test of the emergency lighting, meaning simulating a total power cut to see if the batteries actually last, along with professional servicing of all the equipment.
But doing the checks is only half the battle. You have to write it down. Every check, every drill, every fault, and any ongoing maintenance for detection or sprinkler systems must be diligently recorded in a fire logbook. If an inspector shows up, or worse, if a fire actually breaks out, this logbook is your definitive proof that the building's invisible shield was being actively maintained. Bottom line, if it isn't written down, as far as compliance goes, it didn't happen.
So it all comes down to this. These incredible engineering systems, from the L-category detectors to those expanding intumescent strips, only save lives if they are respected. Fire doors hold back fire and smoke, but only if they are closed and well-maintained. A highly engineered fire door is utterly useless if somebody props it open with a heavy box just to catch a breeze. We have to actively partner with our buildings. Never wedge a door, never block an exit sign, and never ignore a fault.
I want you to take a moment today to really look around your own care or education setting. Ask yourself, is your shield truly intact right now? Or are everyday habits compromising it? Are your escape routes totally clear? Are the fire doors flush and completely shut? The building is ready to detect, warn, and protect you. The real question is, are you doing your part to let it? Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and I highly encourage you to look at your surroundings with completely fresh eyes today.